Hey, this is a reaction to a recent video by Marques Brownlee about forbidden words at Apple. This is not a takedown video. I think he did a great job. Go watch it. It is linked down in the description. But I do think that he kind of missed a point that I wanted him to elaborate on more, so I just decided to make the video to do this myself. So the main point of the video is that Apple has just released this new headset, the Vision Pro, but on stage they didn't mention the words virtual reality even once. And he claims that the main reasons for this are comparison and control. Basically, Apple wants to create this alternate reality where they exist on their own, and their products are somehow so different from everybody else's that people don't really make these comparisons anymore, and it just becomes a bit more detached from the rest of the industry. I think these observations are true. They're true of Apple in general, and they're true of this product as well, but I don't think that they paint a whole picture. Because I think there's a third and even more fundamental reason to not mention the words virtual reality that I think Marques kind of mentioned, but then sort of glossed over, but the rest of the tech media landscape seemed to have completely missed. And I think it is as simple as the Vision Pro not actually being a virtual reality headset. Now, I know what you're thinking. It looks like a Quest, it looks like an HTC Vive, whatever. How could it not be a virtual reality headset? But I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding here. Virtual reality refers to a virtual world that you're in while you have the headset on. And because all of these headsets, from Oculus and from HTC and so on, have done this as their primary function since we've kind of invented the industry, we've now started calling all of these headsets virtual reality headsets. But the Apple headset, which uses all the same components, right? It has screens and cameras and trackers and a headband and everything. It doesn't actually show any virtual environments. During their incredibly long presentation, Apple hasn't shown a single virtual environment at all. There are no VR games, neither ones developed by Apple or by third parties. And unlike other headsets, which when you put them on, they kind of drop you into this 3D virtual environment, a sort of lobby or like a home environment that you're supposed to go into other spaces from, Apple, when you put the headset on, doesn't have that either. You just see your surroundings by default. By default, with the Apple headset, you just see the world around you with little windows floating on top. Those windows show you photos. Maybe some of those photos will be panorama and they'll surround you, or they'll even be 3D movies, and some of that will kind of come out of the window that it's in, which is, I guess, somewhat virtual. But the idea is to basically create an AR headset, an augmented reality headset, with VR technologies. But really think about this. The primary reason why people buy Oculus Quest 2s or big screen VRs or HTC Vives or whatever is to play games and to exist in virtual worlds. Apple has shown not a single demo of that in their entire presentation. Now, there's not because the headset is fundamentally incapable of creating virtual environments, I suppose, although actually not having controllers might be a limiting factor in how you can move around in VR space and whatever, which I think is one of the reasons why they didn't have to create these VR controllers, because you're not supposed to move around in VR environments. But instead, the only thing that I can think of as even remotely virtual is this idea that you have this little knob on the headset that if you turn it, it kind of shows you this photo or video of a landscape around you, which I would argue is not really virtual in any way. It is a video. It's a volumetric 3D video of a space, but it's not a 3D rendering of a forest. It is a video of a forest. Apparently, Apple also showed off the ability to watch an NBA game courtside using the headset, which again is, at least you're secluded from the environment, but again, it is more like a video of a real-time event rather than something that is virtual reality, according to my definition. And I guess the only 3D object that I can think of that isn't just a window or an icon is actually a 3D object of you, the person who's using the headset. And the only reason why Apple made that is because they can't just show a video of you that is realistic. Now, some of the VR headsets can do the things that Apple is doing as well, right? For example, you have color pass-through in the new Meta Quest devices. But the point here is that you see the perspective difference, right? You are in a virtual environment by default, and then occasionally you want to pass through there to see what's happening in front of you or to move around or something. With Apple, it's the opposite. You are in the real reality with augmented things around you, and then occasionally you want to kind of put the blinds down and not see everything that is around you. By default, the realities are kind of switched. The best analogy that I can think of is to think about an Apple TV and a PlayStation, for example. The two devices are functionally almost identical. They both can play games and also play movies. They have a CPU, RAM, they're a little box that is sitting under your TV, and both have some sort of remote control. But one of them is a game console that, by the way, can also play videos, and the other is an Apple TV that can also, by the way, sometimes play mobile games. And I think the point that Apple was trying to make here is that while all the other VR headsets are kind of like a PlayStation, their headset is kind of like an Apple TV. It has all the same functional components and theoretically can do all the things that the others can do, but you're not supposed to think of it that way, and you're not supposed to use it that way. Now, of course, eventually you can expect virtual reality environments to arrive to the headset as well, like VR games and whatever, in the same way that video games arrive to the Apple TV as well, and you can buy a game console for the Apple TV too. But that is not the point of either of those two devices by default. And so yes, I think Marques is partially right about Apple calling this something completely different and not even mentioning VR because they want to differentiate their product from the others using marketing and PR and terminology and everything. But I also think that this is just fundamentally a different product. Now, of course, this is a new form factor for Apple, and there's a good chance that they don't actually know how people will want to use it yet, right? We've seen this with the iPad and with the Apple Watch as well, where the company kind of brought the product out to the market and was surprised that actually the primary thing people want to do on their watches is just fitness. Everything else they don't really care about. They don't want to have apps running on their wrists and anything like that. And so the same might happen to the Vision Pro as well. Like maybe actually all people want to do is play VR games, and maybe Apple will give into it and will eventually turn this into a primarily virtual reality device as well, but not for now. All right, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a bit different from my usual stuff because I just took my bike, I rode to the studio and started recording without a script, which is very unusual for me. Check out Marques' video. It is linked down in the description. I think it is an excellent video as well. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed this as well, and I'll see you in the next one.